Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and many of you see that there are just so many developments going on in Ferguson, Missouri. Most of these developments are occurring as a result, all of them actually, as a result of the shooting of 18-year-old Michael Brown on August 9th. Since that time, the autopsy report has been released. There were 6 bullets that entered Michael Brown's body, all of them from the front. One was at the top of his head. Another one was actually on the inside of his palm, which lends credibility to the idea that he did have his hands up when he was shot. So to try to really dig into this a little deeper, I wanted to talk to my good friend, attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. How you doing today, brother?
Oh, Dr. Watkins, doing good, man. Good to see you, and always good to talk to you.
Absolutely. So you've seen these developments. You've seen that the autopsy results came out. You also have seen that the violence has actually escalated in Ferguson.
Yes.
The police are firing a lot of tear gas. It's getting real messy there. What are your thoughts about all of this?
Well, first of all, with the autopsy report, we must remember that this is a private autopsy that was actually ordered by the Brown family. This was not the autopsy because we still have not received anything or seen anything from the actual St. Louis County Police Department. And this autopsy is from one of the foremost medical examiners in the world, Dr. Michael Baden, I believe is how you say his name. And it's very revealing. And I tell you the truth, Dr. Watkins, when I actually saw it and read the story from the New York Times, my heart really hurt because it showed that unarmed 18-year-old Michael Brown was shot 6 times, but he actually had 9 to 10 wounds because the bullets were going in and coming out and coming back in. The most telling thing of that particular autopsy report is the fact that he does have a gunshot to the inner palm of his right hand, I believe. Now, that will lend credibility and corroborate what we've heard so far from the 3 witnesses who have come forward, that Michael Brown had his hands up saying, "Don't shoot." And so that gunshot wound to the inner palm lends credibility to that. If that's the case, then I don't think there's any question in my mind that Michael Brown was shot while saying, "I'm unarmed," and that in America is called an execution.
Interesting. So you agree with Reverend Jesse Jackson's assessment that this was basically a state execution?
I think it was what we would call extrajudicial killing, meaning that the state did kill an individual without going through the proper channels. Although, I'm not a huge proponent or supporter of the death penalty, we do have proper channels in certain states around the nation. But you have to be arrested, you have to be charged, you have to be tried, you have to be convicted. And even if you are convicted, before you can even get the death penalty, there's a additional component to your trial. There's actually a whole separate trial once you're convicted to see if you actually get the death penalty. But in this particular case, Michael Brown did not receive any of that. He was killed in the street like a mad dog, and he was left to die. He was left dead in the street for almost 5 hours, which is just uncivilized. I think it was unnecessary, and I think it was illegal. And I believe that the officer should be arrested and charged and be tried in a court of law, and then see what a jury says about what happened.
Well, one thing that the man who did the autopsy said, Dr. Michael Baden out of New York, and he's pretty good. He's done about 20,000 autopsies. He even had a show on HBO called Autopsy.
Right.
So he knows what he's doing.
Right.
He said that he was very disappointed that the police had not been more forthcoming about what happened. He said, look, you could have told them how many times he was shot. You wouldn't even tell them that.
Right.
And so he criticizes the department for not sharing information. And I've also spoken to other people like Detective Ken Williams, who also said that it's problematic when you hold that much information back. It looks like a police cover-up.
Right.
What do you think should happen in terms of just the legalities of what happens to the officer, as well as what happens with that department? I mean, should there be an investigation that goes to the top on this? So what do you think?
Well, I think it's been very clear that police department is completely unprofessional, and they do not know what they're doing, just point blank. I think the chief of the police, if he had any integrity, he would immediately resign. But I think he definitely should be removed from that police department. They need a full-scale investigation of that police department. They absolutely need better training. In fact, the first night when they brought in the militarized level of force, the police chief, Jackson, admitted on TV that his police force was untrained and unprepared not only to deal with the issue, but also to deal with the equipment, use the equipment that they were deploying on their own citizens. So I think definitely that needs to be a change at the top. They actually need not only better policing training, they obviously need some more diversity training. They obviously need more diversity within the police department. When you have a town that's over 65% African American and you have 3 African Americans in the police force, that's a major problem. Now to the officer, again, I'm a proponent, as you know, as a lawyer, I'm a big proponent of making sure that our legal process and our justice system works and let this process play itself out. I believe that officer should be arrested, he should be charged, and he should have his day in court. Now, based on the evidence that I've seen and heard so far, I believe he should be found guilty of murder. But that's not for me to say, right? That is for a jury to say. And I believe in the right of a jury trial. But I don't believe that he should be off somewhere with his family on paid administrative leave when right now, as the facts as we know it, is that he killed an 18-year-old unarmed young man in the middle of the street in broad daylight for what appears to be no reason.
Well, I have to agree with you. I think that it is interesting that you have one person in this confrontation. One person is dead, the other one's on vacation, basically, and I haven't heard anything from this officer. I mean, has he said anything? Have they released any information from him? I know they released his name and his image. I don't know if they released the image. I know they released his name. Has anybody given his side of the story at all?
No, as you said, we just found out what his name was just yesterday, I believe. And we don't know anything about the officer. We don't know, and that's what's troubling, Dr. Watkins, is because over these last 6-7 days, the officer has had an opportunity to scrub anything that he may have had on social media, anything he may have, emails, any of his friends. All of that stuff now has had an opportunity to be sanitized until just yesterday when we actually knew who he actually is and what he actually looks like. We just found that out this morning when someone figured out through investigative channels, a picture based off a picture from his parents' Facebook page. So that's very, very problematic. It really just takes away the credibility of the Ferguson Police Department, and I would say the St. Louis County Police Department, because they have been actually running this investigation from the beginning. Which, you must remember this, those police departments work very closely. In fact, my understanding is that the Ferguson police chief actually retired from the St. Louis County Police Department and then became the chief of Ferguson, and he is very good friends with the St. Louis County Police Chief, who's actually running this investigation. So I don't think anyone can say that this is truly an independent investigation, and that's why I was pleased to see AG Eric Holder, announce and order the FBI and the Justice Department to have their own independent investigation into this matter.
Okay, and so I'm going to ask my last question here. So what happens after this is done? What if we get justice for Michael Brown? What if we get the chief to resign? We get the Ferguson Police Department cleaned up. This is a town of 20,000 people. We live in a nation with 350 million, maybe more people. Now I'm not sure what the population is. How does this extrapolate to the real big picture? The big picture to me is that there have probably been at least 15 other black men killed by police since Michael Brown was killed. There is a Ferguson in every town across America. This is a problem that's much bigger than one person, one incident, one city. Do you think that it's possible that we become so focused and fixated on what's wrong with Ferguson that we're not understanding that this is what's wrong with America?
No, I really don't think that's the case. Maybe for some people, but I think anybody who actually works in this space, as you and I do, we understand this is a much bigger problem. And I think with the events that are unfolding in Ferguson, it's going to give an opportunity for some change across the nation, because other cities are looking at what's going on. And you got to understand one thing. This is costing a ton of money. This is costing a ton of overtime for the officers. This costs a ton of overtime for those who are coming out and cleaning up the city crews. The shutdown of commerce is costing big corporations like McDonald's and Walgreens and Quick Trip, which is based right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They're losing a lot of money. So I think a lot of other municipalities and cities are looking at this like, hey, we don't want this to happen in our city. We don't want this type of turmoil in our city that's going to stop the free flow of goods and services and cut off the money. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, everybody not like you and I, Dr. Watkins, who wants to see truth, justice, and equality because it's the right thing to do. People have different motivations, and the biggest motivation in America, and we both, and you're a finance professor, you know this better than I do, the biggest motivation in America is money, and money rules every decision that we have here. Money is the reason why we were imported from Africa, right, to work as enslaved Africans to make other people money. So I believe that the money that is costing Ferguson, both in the monetary and the brand and the public relations battle, is going to be something that other cities are going to look at. Now, we also must be clear that the community members in Ferguson has done something that hasn't been done a long time across America. They have engaged in sustained public disobedience. This is not just some show up one day at City Hall and you bring some signs and you do a protest and you go home and feel good about yourself. This has been sustained over 8 days. This has totally shut down a city. This could happen in other places, and my hope and my prayer is that it doesn't have to be a shutdown of our entire city to allow change to happen holistically. That's what we need here in America.
All right, well, I love it. I love it. It's a good argument, man. I mean, you want to get somebody's attention, you hit their bank account. Well, I love it, man. By the way, everybody, I want you to know that Damario's email, his website is SolomonSimmons.com, and people can follow you on Twitter at
Solo Speaks Truth on Twitter, and like I said, my website is SolomonSimmons.com. Dr. Watkins, if I could say one other thing,
Sure.
I just want to make it clear that, again, we must not lose sight that although there is a bigger picture here, that we must not lose sight that Michael Brown lost his life, what I believe to be illegally, and that is the most important thing, specifically on a micro level, that he received justice. I know they had a tape to come out that showed that Michael Brown stole some cigars. I know they said it was a struggle in the car with the police officer. I don't believe that stealing cigars should be punished by capital punishment. I don't believe a struggle with the police officer, although that's wrong to do, you should be courteous and follow police officers' commands, should be punishable by capital punishment. I don't believe you running away that you should get shot and be punished by capital punishment. But I want to make this point real clear, that at the point that Michael Brown turned around and had his hands up and apparently was shot on the inner palm, that's the point when the threat, whatever threat the officer thought that Michael Brown posed, that threat had been neutralized. And at that point, to continue to pump bullets into him, at least 4 other shots, what witnesses are telling us, that is illegal. And just because an officer has a special badge, he does not have special rights. And if it's illegal for a citizen to shoot someone once the threat has been neutralized, it is illegal for an officer to do the same. And that is the issue here. Too many black men have been killed when there's no threat, no legal justification, and that must stop for our country to move forward the great land that it can possibly be.
All right. Well, he said it best. There you go. You cannot shoot without proper justification. So you can neutralize the threat, but you can't finish the job. That's not your job to finish the job, and that's apparently what happened here. So thank you very much, Damario. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Boyce, and I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and this is Damario Solomon-Simmons from SolomonSimmons.com. He's the attorney out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we'll keep you posted on things as they develop. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.